So good morning once again, and welcome to today's webinar on food safety management system. Specifically, we are talking about ISO 2018 version.
So just before you continue, so just like we did yesterday, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, and even those who were here yesterday, whilst Fred takes us through, would recommend that if you have questions, you put them in the chat box. When he's done with the presentation, we'll come back to the chat box, take the questions in the chat box, and those of you who have other lingering questions, you also have the opportunity to ask your questions directly. So let's keep our mics muted whilst he's on, and then when he's done, we'll have that interaction. Thank you. No, Fred, you may continue.
Yes, somebody has a question on the chat, and he was trying to find out what's the criteria used in the classification of hazards as either low, medium, or high. That risk assessment can take us some few minutes, but in the nutshell, you are looking at the severity of the hazard, that's that presence, the frequency, and the, if you like, the cumulative effect. Okay, there is a chart we call the Hunter chart. You see that when you look at the frequency, the severity, and the probability, you'll be able to get the risk factor. And then there is a table. When you use it, you know, those who are just high, you can use the 3x3 or the 3x5 to give you a certain result. And that will tell you whether it is low, medium, or high. And that risk factor, if it's occurring almost every day, and the severity is high, like the resultant effect is like death, not that you just had runny tummy and tomorrow after taking some medication, okay, this one, you will die. Most of them are from the bacteria hazards like the cholera, you know, all those things. You will die. Food poisoning, you will die. So those ones are very high risk. So you use those things after you've done your hazard study. And a lot of brainstorming will go into that picture. You should be on top of that subject matter. Okay, and then you contribute and you'll be able to classify whether it's low, medium. So that is it. When you go and read whatever I sent yesterday, you appreciate this explanation better. So let's continue. So I will share what I have today with you, and please feel free to draw my attention to anything that will need further explanation. Let me do full, increase my font size. Correct. Is it clear now? So this, I think the course introduction, I've done so much about it. I've introduced myself yesterday. Those who were on, they know me. The participants' introductions on the screen so we can all read. Now let's look at the objective of this course. So what is the objective? What is the objective? The assumption is that after we run through this webinar, though just about 1.5 hours approximately, you should be familiar with the different food safety regulations and standards. Yesterday, you mentioned one of the standards, that is the hazard standard developed by FAO, that's Codex Alimentarius Commission. And we have the latest edition to always your hazard system or attempt to implement as a refer to that Codex Alimentarius Commission. And please, this standard is free on the FAO website, Codex website, free, as well as majority of the specific product standards. You can download them free. And most of them has also been adopted by Ghana Standards Authority. both the standards and the code of practices. So you can have it. And then the food safety regulation, you can have it in our law books. Also, we anticipate that you will be aware of the drivers behind food safety standards. I'm talking about the drivers, the people who are lobbying hard that we should have food safety standards, to the extent that as a country, Ghana, we should have the food law, which will drive the regulation and everything about food safety. Also, I want you to be aware of the ISO 22000, the 2018 edition, which will talk about the development processes, the concept, the requirements, and how you can integrate it with other standards. Yesterday, I gave you the tip that if you have ISO 9001 and you have a HACCP system in place, by merging the two, you harmonize it, and you have what will play a very important role in your implementation towards ISO 22000. So the integration is there. Yesterday we mentioned it, and other relevant food safety standards. There are several food safety standards, but if like the most important one, or the apex document, is the ISO 22000, which incorporates a lot of principles from ISO 9000 and from Codex. So by close of day, you should be able to understand how HACCP 22000 and quality management system integrate, come together to give you a robust food safety system. I'm using the term, the phrase, robust food safety system, a system which will encompass all the three key standards we discussed. So now the question is, why do we think there is a growing concern for food safety? Why? Why do you think there is that concern? And where is it coming from?
Hello.
Let's
Can I
try
come
and
in?
answer this
Hello.
question.
Yes, sir.
Food
Hello.
safety. Now, please come here. You want to give us? Yes. Talk,
Yes, I want
Isaac.
to get. My name is Isaac.
Talk.
Yes,
Yes, I've seen your name. Yes, stop.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. In fact, when we look at the way our food system is, the use of inorganic practices and some other malpractices in the food sector, and the kind of negative effects it has on human health and our environment.
Okay.
I thought this brought the needs for we to educate the public or the entrepreneurs on how to handle some of these challenges we are facing within our environment where we work with our food system, so that the issue of poisonous or chemicals that will destroy the human life will be drastically reduced. I think that is why the food safety system is very important, and it is very good that it has to be inducted in various industries who are into food sectors or production sectors, so that will help reduce the chemical implications or dangerous or poisonous implications. Thank you, sir.
Thank you too. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you very much for your contribution. So there's a growing concern, consumer concern, awareness, just like what Isaac is just saying. Awareness. Everybody is aware that if you don't eat well, you rather consume food to get energy, strength, and whatever, to do whatever you want to do. But if you don't eat right, you don't eat wholesome food, you kill yourself. So consumer awareness is one of the reasons why, this course is becoming very important. And then also, now because of our secular jobs and things, you don't even have time to prepare our own food. So most food that we eat or consume, I will use the word consume, prepare away from home. Sometimes you don't even know where the food is coming from. And please don't be deceived that you are eating or you're buying your menu or your food from a very plush facility, beautiful restaurant, beautiful hotel. Those of us who are in that practice, we know what goes on in those kitchens. So beware and don't be, if you like, confused by what you see. The structure will not guarantee wholesome food. Okay, now globalization. We are talking about barriers to trade. And most often the barriers will originate from food safety concerns or challenges. And sometimes we are even unaware or not familiar with the hazards or the new hazards that has been directly or indirectly being injected into the food. For instance, now we are polluting our waters. So right from primary production, where you get it, we're talking about from the farm through all the production or manufacturing to the table. We are introducing new hazards, the poisonous substances, the pesticide residues, the agrochemicals. So you should be aware, and most advanced market, because of globalization, some of them in the past, maybe they were not aware, now they know. Also, we are talking about international trade in food products, which is increasing because now we say bread is expensive because the bulk of the wheat that we use to produce bread coming from now a war-torn country, and we may not get that wholesome wheat, that barley, that corn. So now you rely on all kinds of supplies. Some contains high levels of poisonous substances. And then also now we're talking about increase in scientific knowledge, just like what we started yesterday, the hazards in food and the consumer effect. There's one thing I want to mention. Some of them, especially the toxins, your cooking cannot take away the toxin. Quick to mention aflatoxin, ochratoxin. Cooking will not take away those toxins. Histamine, those in the fish processing, your cooking will not take away that toxin. So all this is trying to quicken or even increase, enhance our awareness for safe food. And also, when you look at this picture from the health sector, there's a rising incidence of illnesses in some countries. And when those things are happening, they are not restricted to that jurisdiction. They move on to other countries. So that is why it's becoming very important for us to know the ABC of food safety and how we can improve those. So now let's look at some of the food safety standards. I'm bringing up some of these things because you are doing different things depending on your raw material and even the final product and the standards that should be applied. Yesterday, somebody asked, why should a product that has been certified by a recognized or reputable assessment body, but it rejected and said that either there is lack of integrity in terms of there is no understanding Josh, yes. Can you mute your mic? There's somebody talking. Ransford, can you mute your mic, please? Yes. So let's look at some of the food safety standards and where the compliance, the product compliance certificate is needed. What type, the product related or the process related, and the compliance certificate. Okay. We have some, the type is that, oh, it's related to a product A or product B, or process A or process B. And some of the compliance standards, we're talking about product, specific product standard, like orange, pineapple, mango. We have specific product standard for mangoes. Okay, for pineapples, for cassava, starch, or gari, or tapioca. Then we have the processes that within that operation or surrounding that operation, there are processes and you need some certification. And yesterday you spoke about the HACCP that cuts across all kinds of food processing sectors. And I said the process as a prerequisite should be established and should be very efficient and effective. So you go for the HACCP certification to show proof that you are capable of controlling that process. Let's look at the nature. HACCP in some jurisdictions is mandatory. And in others, it's voluntary. Until coming to the being of our food law, you may regard the certification of HACCP, a product to HACCP, as voluntary. But I know pretty soon it will become mandatory. Besides, when it comes to business arrangement, when we are trading among certain, some insist that even before they start giving you contracts, you should, your system or your entity, your company should be HACCP compliant. So it becomes mandatory. Some in the area of Eurogap, now you have the Ghana gap, the global gap. It is some cases, it is mandatory, in other voluntary. ISO 9000, like same. 22,000, same. Some traders, some blocks, some countries will require this certification. And therefore, you look at it as mandatory. And some standards set by governments to regulate certain sectors, especially the food sector, through their food law, you need to have those certifications. I said in the European Union, you need, but they will not prescribe that, do it this way or that way, but your food safety system should incorporate the HACCP principles, the 7 principles. It should be based on. So you can say that your food safety system was based on the HACCP principles. And you make reference to the standard developed by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. British Retail Consortium, which is a private sector standard. Trust me, you cannot trade with most of the, if you like, the supermarkets or the multinationals in Britain if you don't have a certificate that was awarded to you based on the elements and the requirements of the BRC. And trust me, BRC certification is not a joke. Meeting the requirements is difficult. So you have to put in a lot more effort to get that certificate. And sometimes you are talking about the international organization, which has made it quite flexible and easy for most countries, members of the ISO. And majority of them are voluntary. But if the one who is buying from you insists that you should have ISO 9001 certificate or ISO 22,000 certificate before you can sell to them, we have no option than to comply, and therefore it becomes mandatory. Some companies, from experience, even before they sign the order contract with you, they will give you a questionnaire to answer certain questions. A majority of them are based on the elements or the requirements of this standard, either 9,000, 22,000, or HACCP. And if your answer, they say no, 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 they say you are not ready to do business with them, and therefore they can't give you the order. So you see how important certification is regarding some of this product, and even depending on where you want to sell, the market. The objective I've said is about food safety. Yesterday we mentioned that, and to facilitate trade. And I said that you can never become competitive if you are not addressing issues of food safety and quality. And now they've linked it to environment because of the UN sustainable goals, the environment. Some are even linking it to social. You know, there's a social compliance standard that they will audit your system, whether you are producing food, non-food, or whatever, against your ethics in terms of how you treat your staff, and even where you operate. You have a plush hotel in the center of Accra, the city of Accra, and you do things without regard to the people who also reside in that place. Noise, wastewater, disposal, all over. So these are some of the things that we consider. And I've mentioned some of the standards that they will. It's either to HACCP, Eurogap, now we call the Ghana Gap, or the Global Gap, you have it. ISO 22,000, 9,000, BRC, the IFS, that is International Food Standard. And then now, I told you that the third grade, the FSSC 22,000, you see, that standard was based on the elements captured or the requirements in the 22,000. So if you haven't passed that second level, 22,000, forget it. You can never get FSSC certificate. And you know, the interesting thing is that this standard will bring in all the PRPs, the prerequisite programs, the foundation standards into that. So after they've audited you against the requirement of 22,000, now they are bringing the extra PRPs, that's the prerequisite programs, in there. So that's what makes it very difficult. Then environmental, 14,000, environmental. Then they have another private standard called the Tesco Nature's Choice. Those of you who want to do business or Britain or some countries in Europe, beware of this. And then you have the SA, which is the labor standards. And therefore you have to get a certificate against SA. Now you call it the 45,000 series of standards. And then we have 26,000, corporate social responsibility. We have a lot of standards, information security, and all that, depending on where you find yourself. And please, please, I'll emphasize, most of these things are interrelated or interlinked, and they have interreactions, and therefore some, if they want to have their peace of mind, will go for multiple certification. 9,000, 14,000, 45 integrated certificate. So you cover all the areas that you'll be expected to comply with. So now let's look at some of the food safety standards and where it's being used or applied. On my left, you have the standard. In the middle, you have the scope and where it is commonly used. Eurogap. Now you have Ghana Gap or Global Gap. It's for agro products. So agro business people, don't forget that there is a standard. In Ghana, the Ghana Gap is there, and you have the Euro Gap, depending on where you want to sell, and you have the Global Gap. And within the global one, there are several sectors. Those who are producing poultry feed, composite poultry, aquaculture, fish, that's the fish farming. There is a standard, and you have to use that standard in your operations. Then the GMP being the basic prerequisite, a control mechanism, general food, whether you are producing cassava, orange juice, pineapple juice, jam, puree, whatever, dry fruits, you should have this basic prerequisite in place. Good manufacturing practice. That is why it is a code. It is not auditable standard, but it's a code of good practice. So that should form your foundation, and you can add on other food safety standards, depending on where you find yourself in the food chain. Okay? Then we have the ISO 9000, the almighty quality standard, very generic. Apply the principles and you're on top of almost everything that you do. I believe those of you who attended our first webinar, where we went into details, the elements of the ISO 9000. The principles are there. If you follow, fine. What is the relationship between you and your workforce? How do you take decisions? Is it based on evidence or hearsay or what I think? It's in the ISO 9000. The principles are there. I've spoken about BRC, British, and then safe quality foods in Australia and most of the countries in Asia. Then we have those guidelines of food safety within the food chain in US. And US also apply the American Codex, Canada Codex, Ireland. Those countries, the food chain standards, very, very stringent. But they will grant you the leeway to apply for certification in these specific areas, depending on the scope and where you want to do business. IFS in Germany, for food processing, if you don't have a certificate against the IFS standard, it will be very difficult for you to enter the German market as a food processor. Tesco, UK, you know Tesco. It's also for agro products. Those of you who are selling your peanut butter and all those things in Europe, in UK, you know what standard you should work with in the kind of certificate you should obtain. Then you come to ISO 22000. So, are you saying that adopting the ISO 22000 regarding all the numerous standards that you've gone through and where it is being used and the scope, are you saying this? I will want to get some responses from you that the introduction of ISO 22000 is the first global food safety standard. I've given you a lot of background, so you should be able to tell me whether the introduction of ISO 22000 is the first global food safety standard. I will just expect 2 comments, then we move on because of time. I've seen some in the chats, but I'll come to that. Let me finish this part and then I'll find time to answer. Or the answer is within the chat. Nanan Ketia says no. Somebody too is asking whether ISO 9000 is superior than 22000. No. They are addressing specific issues. ISO 9000 is generic, irrespective of the sector. ISO 22000 is addressing food safety issues and is specific to, if you like, the food chain from farm to fork. Food safety. 9000 quality. Okay.
Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, please. Yeah, please. The reason I'm asking, since you say ISO 9001 is generic, across, so
yes,
22,000 is just for specific a particular area.
Yes, specific area, food chain.
So that's why I was asking if 9,000, because if the 9001 is generic, meaning my understanding was, I don't know, it's superior than the 22,000.
No, there's no superiority in this.
Okay.
9000 will give you the foundation, what you call management principles. That's why it's generic. Whether you are in banking, insurance, transport, you can apply the principles elaborated in the 9000. You cannot apply the principles in 22,000 to address transport or banking issues. Are you with me?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You can only use it to address concerns in food chain.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, and then Nana is no. I said there's an evolution. The food safety standard started gradually with HACCP. When US started going to space, and the objective is that to ensure that the astronauts don't get sick when they are somewhere that we cannot even imagine, because there's no doctor to find out what is happening. So they were trying to come, if you like, defect-free food to serve those who are going to space. That's where they started talking about HACCP. When you get my manual, that introduction to all the history is in there, where HACCP started, long before 20,000 came in. Yes.
Questions, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know how will I run away from poisonous food since I am not in the kitchen?
Of course.
And I am also safety precautions. I mean, we are aware of the safety of what you are going to eat. How will I be aware that the food that they are preparing in the kitchen that I am not there meets the standard?
Exactly.
And then will you advise the entities to display their various certificates at their receptions for us to go through before patronizing their food?
Thank you very much. Let me for you making sure that what you are eating is wholesome, you leave it in the hands of the regulatory agencies. And then also the integrity of the producer, the one who's preparing the food. Okay, so the regulatory agencies have to ensure that whoever is preparing the food will meet all those requirements in either the code of practice or in the product standard. Okay, so we are relying on the regulatory agencies like Food and Drugs Authority, EPA, the Factory Inspectorate Division, and all that. Okay, and to the extent that even the hospitality industry, the regulators, hotels, and all that, they work under a certain authority. The last one that you're talking about, by law, these entities has to display their status on their front desks or on their notice board. When you go to some of the restaurants, the good ones, of course, you see that they display their status there. I'm not promoting any particular restaurant, but go to Papaya. You will see. Okay? Go to Mawako, some of the fast food centers. You will see that they display. Some of the restaurants in the hotels, they display, you will see. But as to the authenticity and the genuineness of those people, these certificates, I cannot vouch for. But there are other physical signs that you see. If you go there, even supermarket where they sell the meat and poultry, you see that UV lies there, meaning that they know some of the mandatory requirements that they ought to meet for them to display meat or fish for sale. It will tell you something. It will tell you the storage condition. Yesterday, I mentioned a lot about hazard. The storage condition. Ready to eat food. Is it exposed? Trust me, if you see that, I'm not trying to discount the role they play in food, the food chain.
Prof.
If somebody selling meat pie on the tray, chinchinga on the tray, and you buy, it's at your own peril. Thank you. Somebody mentioned that. Yes.
Please, I want to ask an addition. Do all these stars have inspectors to ensure that those in it are doing the right thing to protect the integrity of the awards?
Okay. I cannot speak for most of the regulatory agencies, but they do have adequate staff to do that. Besides that, there's something that you call in advanced country, self-regulation mechanism. You yourself, some countries, they don't even want you to say, I have certificate in A or B, but self-declaration that come, examine, look at me, tell me whether I fit for that purpose or not. That ask them, do a random sample, call any of their staff, the critical ones, and say, have you undergone any medical check this year? And listen to their responses. It will help you because now you are dependent on their integrity for your own health needs. Tell them, Prof. Yes, please. Obapa coming. Is it what? Natural Obapa.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
With this ISO standards,
correct.
Just as you said that we just have to depend on their integrity. Correct. There's a very high class hotel restaurants in Tema here that I used to patronize their Chinese
dish. Okay.
Dishes.
Yes.
Until one day we got there, the meal was playing. So I excused myself to use the restroom.
Restroom, okay.
To my biggest disappointment, the washroom is actually an extension of their storage facility for their
raw materials,
food items.
Correct.
Immediately I came out, I told my husband, if the food has not been served, even if it has been served, we should leave immediately.
Right.
My husband is an environmentalist and he takes some of these things seriously.
Seriously, yes.
So he didn't just let it slide.
Correct.
He took them on, and at the end of the day, a friend of his, an acquaintance just told him, oh, Charlie, this one, let it be, we've spoken to them and blah, 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 blah. A long story short, we have never patronized any of these so-called high-class eateries.
Yeah.
You see, the same thing has also happened at Spintex before, which their washroom was actually
a mess.
Close, a thin plywood that was dividing the kitchen, the industrial kitchen, from the public washroom. And we all know how easy some of these virus and whatever can, just move and cross each other in our various
cross contamination. Yes, you're right.
So please, how do we ensure that the people who we expect, like the FDA, EPA, Ghana Standard Authority, how do we ensure that they are doing the right things? They don't just go and then just get a kickback and leave them to be until somebody probably dies and they say, oh, never again. But in the next future, never again is still happening. How do we ensure all this, or how do we put them in proper checks?
Okay.
Thank you.
Apart from, like I say, consumer awareness and trying to insist on the rights, I know that very soon compliance to these standards is becoming an issue. And if you are not able to comply and show proof, you'll be prosecuted. The law has been passed by the Ghana Standards Act that it will be mandatory for people in this kind of business to comply with the requirements in the standard. But I'll say that the bottom line still lies on you, the consumer. In some countries, the consumer associations are very strong and they will ensure that it doesn't. But the advocacy, you have to, like what we did. And there's a lot of examples where people insisted and those eateries were shut down and they asked them to. But
they have all the required certification boldly and nicely framed in there. So what is happening? Is it that they just get it for the fun of it or for the sake of it without thinking about their general customers or consumers?
Please, sir, can I come in small? This is Isaac.
Isaac, go ahead.
Yo, thank you, sir. Madam, in fact, you are raising a very good concerns. And then I think all the time, what I have, or the pains I have in my heart is Ghana lacks security precautions or supervision.
Isaac.
Yes, sir.
Are you from FDA?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm not from FDA. Please, I just, no, that's not what, sorry. I'm retracting, sir. What I wanted to say that
no,
is
just a moment.
Okay.
For the FDA question, we are not in a position to address the concerns of FDA since we don't have a personnel. We've not invited FDA onto this, so we will leave Obatampa's question hanging. The response that Fred gave would suffice for now. If need be, we would organize another forum if there are concerns about some of these issues that he's raised, and then we can have interaction.
Sir, I was just trying to say something.
No, when I'm done, you can continue. I just wanted to clear that so that we do not
I hear, sir. I hear.
We are not there to talk about. All right.
I hear, sir. Okay, then let me move on. Yes, what I wanted to say that, like, after the certification has been given, our supervision process is very low, especially if I have given certificate for somebody to do the right thing. I should make sure that even by surprise, one day I'll visit to know is the person doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And sometimes when we receive the certificates, we thought that is all. And then we have to be doing whatever we thought is right. And when it happens like that too, the consumers are those that are suffering so much. Maybe some people are there, they will even make the food, their food, the one they will eat very nice. But the one that a lot of people will come and buy, it will be a different thing altogether. But the certificate are there to show that, oh, the person has all this. But as to who was supervised in a surprise way, so that the person will fear that, hey, if I didn't do the right thing,
there's another one to give you that, but it's 209.
I'll be whole responsible. That is the issue, Daddy. Yes, but then I also want to ask something, Daddy. Now, we are talking of food safety. But when it comes in terms of certification of food safety registrations or certifications, it's not easy. It shoots some of money.
Isaac.
Yes, sir.
If your question is to Fred, I think Fred has just dropped off. He's trying to reconnect. He would be back. So let's just hold our briefs for a few seconds. He should reconnect.
Okay,
if it's general contribution to what he presented, then you, with the hands up, I see Victor hands up, and then with that, you can continue talking. But Isaac, kindly hold on. When he's back, then you come up with your question. I would also plead that we go straight to the questions. For areas for other regulators who are not here, please, let's leave them. We don't want to be answerable to things that we cannot answer. If they are here, it's much more easier.
Yes, it's true. Thank you, sir.
All right. Yes, Victor, you may go ahead. So I see a number of hands up. I see Victor, I see Samuel, I see Jules, I see Lau. Judith, any of you who is ready? Judith?
Yes.
Jampare, any of you can go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, Judith.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add that in the hospitality industry, there's usually a team of staff members, like you have for first aid, for instance. There's always a team from each department. But you know how the industry is, like people change jobs a lot. So usually they do these things twice in a year to ensure that the same team, or if someone has left the team, someone will replace. Because sometimes you have the SOPs to follow, but at a point when people leave or they are just casuals, they are not permanent staff and they leave, or they are not on duty again, then it makes it difficult. So, but with Obatampa's own, I think it's more of a structural problem than, you know, a system problem. So yes, people will follow whatever rules you give them to ensure that HACCP is, you know, is being followed. But if you keep changing stuff and all that, new stuff, if they're not trained, they will not know. And then the old staff who are not replaced will also forget. So this is just to add on to that from the hospitality industry point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith, for your contribution. Yes, Samuel.
Hello. Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, so Frederick, Mr. Jamna is back. So now,
sorry. No, sorry.
Okay.
Justice,
May I come in, sir?
let me apologize. I have two Wi-Fi right now. The Vodafone is not reliable today at all, so I have to switch on to my MTN. So I'm sorry, that's why it took a long time. It will not even tell you by the time you say network. So please go ahead and I'll continue.
Samuel, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm at the MBA. I'm with the MBA. But then, so I'm not talking for MBA. I'm just giving my
Samuel, please unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just coming in as a concerned citizen, but not to speak on behalf of the FDA. Yes, but I'm with FDA actually. So with regards to the concern raised with our previous, the madam who just talked, yeah. You see, one thing I always say is that when, let's say when you're in your house and then you realize that the president is coming to your house or your pastor is coming to your house, what you do is you clean up the place, make everywhere neat, wash everything because you are having a very high authority coming. So the same way happens in let's say in our communities or in our various areas. When they realize that FDA is coming or a regulatory body is coming, everybody tries to put everything in place. Okay, so when you come, then you come and see everything neat, and then you give them a good recommendation. But thanks be to God, FDA, I don't think FDA will just come and then look, inspect your place, and then you deceive FDA that, oh, everything is correct, and you go back and sleep. That's why we have the intelligence department who will say, come to you unexpected or in a different way, which you wouldn't know. So the monitoring still keeps going on and on and on. But then back to we the citizens, the security personnel always tells us when you see something, see something. So anytime you see something that's not going right, you have to make a report to the right personnel. Okay. Otherwise, when you get there and then you see that oh, there's something wrong, and then you get up and leave, it will still be there. The corrective measures wouldn't be taking place. And the next what do you call it, someone who is not having knowledge about it will be affected with it. Yeah, so I'll plead anytime we ourselves as citizens see something wrong with something, at least alert the people or alert the what do you call it, whoever is concerned, then actions will be taken. Thank you very much on my side.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel, for your input. Yeah, Frederick Nate.
Yes, I just want to comment on Obatampa's concern that even if you have a good food safety system in place, and you have high staff turnover, since your system is robust, those who are coming will be able to follow through. So that hospitality facility might be lacking a lot of PRPs or OPRPs in place in their operation. So that's all I want to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Isaac, now Mr. Jamna is here, so we take your question, we come to Matilda.
Okay, sir, thank you so much. What I was trying to say is that we feel like, I'm into mushroom production, and also I farm vegetables, organic. So if I am looking for certificates for my mushrooms or vegetables, in fact, the process I have to pass through as a young or a startup. Maybe the kind of fees you have to pay, this laboratory fees and others. Sometimes it deters some of the youth or entrepreneurs or the SMEs to be running away or seeking from hiding away from some of this registration process. So as this program is concerned, how will it be possible that
okay, everybody, we are all now concerned of the safety system for the food we produce. So how are we able to reduce or look at the price for the SMEs to be able to produce or follow the laid down procedures to be able to produce to the standard? Then the price is high and the person is not able to get money to buy, to get a certificate, and will be running up and down. So what will your institution or as this program is concerned do to be able to see that some of the SMEs who are 1 year, 2 years, the registration process will be very minimal for them? Better than maybe it is very high than the person's even income per daily or per month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isaac. In terms of cost, what you are asking, this question is not meant for Wacom. It should be addressed to FDA because they set the cost. We do not. We okay. Yes, we do not. But then for the SMEs that operate within the value chains that we work in, based on the technical support that we provide, and then we also initiating support in other areas to help them register product registrations and other support. Yes. But in terms of cost, we do not set the prices. So that is something to be discussed with FDA.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. And in your specific case, since you mentioned your vegetables and mushroom, because we are not directly involved in these two value chains, vegetables and mushrooms, we are not in a position to support that area. But I believe that other SMEs who are on this call, currently as we speak, I believe yesterday Fred mentioned it, we have a number of quality experts who are visiting some facilities and helping them with their GMPs, who are helping them with documentations, helping them with all support to be able to get these certifications and put their documentations together where they don't have manuals or SOPs, help them document all these processes. So we provide all these kinds of services.
Okay.
All right.
Thank so I have pineapple farm too. I didn't just mention it, sorry.
No problem. So there's Frank on this call. Look for Frank Kwesi, and then you can send him a direct message and he can talk to you after this. So
thank you, sir.
Yes, you can look for the chat box and send him a direct message.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, Isaac. Matilda, and then I think Fred will take over the next session. Mr. Nate, do you still have an issue? If not, kindly drop your hand so that I know. Yes, Matilda, please go ahead.
Okay, hello. Thank you for the opportunity. So I was going to say something, but
I feel that your network is failing us.
We are taking this lesson as regulators and can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me? I just heard it, but before that, it was slurry. We couldn't hear anything.
Okay, so I was saying that I had a question which the one who just spoke before me mentioned. I realized that the questions that were coming in sounded like we are taking these lessons as consumers, but we've forgotten that we are manufacturers. So we should be looking at what we can do as manufacturers to ensure the safety of the food we produce. It is good that we are being good citizens and all that, but now you are in place of a manufacturer. So you yourself, what are you doing to ensure HACCP in your production area, to ensure all the GMPs and all that? And like he said, some of us are startups, and I used to be a quality control officer at Coca-Cola Bottling Company in charge of traceability and sensory, and they are the big names. They have the ISO and all that. So I'm looking at the relevance of this lesson we are taking right now. As now I'm a micro business. Now I'm doing fruit juices and local beverages. So first step, I have some of my products registered with FDA. So what is next? How do I improve? How do I progress till I get to the ISO? As Prof has mentioned, ISO is not a joke, because I see that ISO is for the very, very big names. But that is why Wacom is there, because Wacom wants us to be competitive. So they are giving us the opportunity. But what do I have to go through after I've registered my business and my products with FDA? What's the next step? Then I know that I'm going forward to get ISO and to even think of SSC. That's my concern for now.
Okay, that's a good concern. Fred will take your concern.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Matilda.
Thank you,
Fred.
Matilda. Matilda, I think you hit on very important issues that you should be concerned. All of us should be concerned. Now, you are playing the role as a producer, manufacturer. And on this platform, you have people who also look at themselves as consumers. For me, when I'm taking people through food safety, everybody is an end user. Today, you are a manufacturer. Tomorrow, you are a consumer of somebody's product. That is how you look at the corporate world, so that you do things right, because your output will become somebody's input. That is the principle coming from the 9,000. If you look at it from that angle, then everybody will know that when it talks about food safety, it's everybody's business. Thank you very much. Like you said, you've done that. This webinar purposely is to give you some level of awareness, some education, and the things that you ought to do either as a consumer or a producer, so that at the end of the day, you come out of wholesome food items that everybody will be safe as a country. Now, to talk about the 22,000, you see, the 22,000 is a family of standards, and I've displayed a few of them. The good practices that you want to learn and apply in your small business can be found in this. And, you know, there's several of these documents, standards and code of practice that you can have access to from Ghana Standards Authority Library. Besides that, if you are targeting a certain market, niche market, the same standards board have the inquiry point, where markets all over the world, as their so-called market norms, their standards, that you can try to read and get some knowledge and tailor your production specifically addressing those issues in that code of practice or standard. We have quite a number. The reason why we are not talking so much about the pineapple and mango, for me in particular, I'm really surprised at mango. We started this long ago when I was young, to the extent that we even developed standards where you call it the pictorial norms, because we know a lot of you in the primary production, you can read, but maybe you will not be able to understand and write everything. So you use pictures to depict what is good practice and what is bad, and what is okay and what is not okay. So the documents are there. Only that is a matter of trying to make it public so that people know where to find the relevant information. So that is what we are in today for. So please don't be disappointed and look at it from both angles, as a consumer and as a producer. The next steps after your registration, there are several things that when you acquire the knowledge, the basic knowledge, then you know where to find it. I'm hoping and praying that I will have the opportunity to give you another one, where that one, you've done it before, but it's not under WACO. But I have, because I was in charge of the standard aspect of that project. I'll give you where to obtain those necessary information, and then even the pieces of certificates that you are asking for, and what is required of you to be able to, you know, acquire that certificate. There, it will be a facilitation to help you acquire the necessary or the relevant certificate. Now let's go on to our topic for today. This is how the 22,000 looks like. You see, you have a hierarchy of documentation, and that is why I started yesterday with the prerequisite. And the prerequisite, and I mentioned that when you talk about the prerequisite program, where you call the GMPs, the good manufacturing practices, several of them. I mentioned good agricultural practice. Those of you in primary production, there is a guide for you. Also part of this ISO 22000 family. Then we have GMPs. You know, quite a number of you know GMPs because Wacom has done a lot of training workshops on GMPs. You have good hygienic practices. The GMPs are many. There is one for each sector, several of them. Those for manufacturing, those for hospitalities, they are all there. You can find them in the Ghana Standards Authority Library. Even if you cannot purchase, try and write something about the relevant subject matter where you want to acquire the necessary information and skills. So the prerequisite programs are all captured in there. And I told you, you see the Codex Alimentarius, which is the basic thing that we are all learning with, general principles of food hygiene, which is in the Codex Alimentarius standard. That will be the basic that you need to know. That you need to know so that you can build on. Materials having very high objective because of where you came from. When you work in such environment, you will not play with standards and you want to achieve the best through standards. Now, from the prerequisite, that's the base, the foundation I showed you yesterday, you come to the hazard principles, which is also captured in that. But I told you yesterday, I showed you a tree, and I said that the foundation, the root, is the beginning. If you don't have those GMPs, the prerequisite, you cannot apply the hazard principles. And yesterday I told you, you only apply the principles when you've done all the preliminary steps and got into what? The sticks, where you apply the first principle of trying to do the hazard analysis. The hazard study is critical, and then you build on until we get to the final step of the process, step 12. And that is where you end the principle 7. Okay, so here you've talked about the guidelines for the application of a hazard system that will lead you to the proper implementation of ISO 22000. So that is how it works. The management system elements are all spelled out in this ISO 22000. And the requirements are all also described in this standard. So this standard, ISO 22000, becomes the auditable, meaning that is the standard they can audit whatever system you have, food safety system, against specific requirements in the standard. And this is the structure. So this is how you build your documentation towards achieving ISO 22000 certification. Caution. Caution. If you apply everything that is stated here efficiently and effectively, 2 key words, not haphazard, in a certain logical sequence, then you arrive at a system which will meet the requirements of the ISO 22000 standard. So that is how we start from the base, you move through the food safety system based on the hazard principle, and you move up into the food safety management system, which will encompass some elements of ISO 9000, general principles in terms of quality management issues, together with food safety concerns, so that you address the food safety aspects, and then it will facilitate trade because you are meeting all the requirements that will enhance the sales and acceptability of your final product. Now, this is how it looks like, stepwise. We may not have the luxury of time to go into specific details, but I'm giving you the framework, the broad lines, so that when you get any document, look at it from this angle, and it will be easy for you to comprehend. I'm saying that you are coming from this part, extreme left. Everyone has a system. You can debate it. That will not change my stand. Everyone has a system. It depends on how you constructed the system and how you evaluate the system and how genuine you are committed to making sure that the system works for you. What is the definition of a system? You have the structure, you have the manpower, you have the protocols or the procedures, but how reliable are these elements that I've mentioned? Did you copy the structure from somewhere? Material sells something, I was saying, good, it depends on where you come from. Coca-Cola have a structure based on their parent company, which has survived competition over years. They've reviewed the structure, they verified the structure, but before they even started implementing the structure, they did the validation of the structure. And that led to the relevant procedures and protocols. And that even helped them to recruit the right caliber of people and place them at specific duty stations. So if you did it the way I'm describing it, then we can say you already have something, meaning you are doing many things right, and you are doing good things. The Americans will say, get it right at the first time. There's no chance for trial and error. You will never achieve your target if you go by that system. So before, do the validation and say the structure is what you need. The system is what you need to help you achieve the ultimate. That is the story. Then when you've done that, because you've done that, you are trying to what? Build upon your existing management system. One of you asked about the difference between, or which one is superior, the 9,000 or the 22,000. I said, that is not the issue. Every specific system is addressing unique and specific issues. So you have a management system based on the principles of 9,000. If you do not involve the people, if you don't focus on customer satisfaction, then the issues that was raised by Madam, sorry, I've forgotten your name, it's a typical account name, but the company is what I'm interested in. If you base your thing on that system, you are involving the people. You are taking decisions based on facts. Okay? You are considering the customer satisfaction. You are talking about continual improvement, not Sane Yanuda is past tense. Sane Yanuda will never give you any good results. You will continue to remain as what? Very, very, if like, struggling producer or primary producer because you are not improving your yield. The quality of your products are not being, that will not take you anywhere. So that is the existing structure. Make sure that the existing structure, you are doing things right. You are doing the good things through verification. Verification by checking whether what I'm doing is right and is giving me the desired result. You should have a target and make sure that you are meeting those targets, those objectives, those aims. And those objectives should be what? Realistic. You should be able to measure whether you are doing well or you're not doing well. These are all from the management principles. Then you come to apply your codex on all the GMPs. He said what? Good manufacturing practices. If you don't have that in place, I'm sorry, you will not move up. Okay. And when you have all this and you have the necessary and the requisite support, by the time you realize you've met your objective, you are matured enough to apply for ISO 22000 certificate. All this is just terminologies and the principles within that. And I told you earlier that risk-based management is key for all management system standards. And I gave several examples. Why? Risk-based thinking. Risk-based thinking is one of the issues you are going to focus on. And we are addressing the risk because you understand them, you know them, you can identify them, both potential and real risk. So you can even predict what will happen to the food sector or the manufacturing sector 2-3 days from today. Because now consumers are saying that they are very careful about products that contain high sugar content, high salt content. So if you are using monosodium, I'm not trying to downplay any, as your chiefs, whatever, to improve the taste, start thinking, because the consumer awareness on the negative effects of some of these additives. If you are using color to enhance your product, think again, because consumers are now aware. The literature is abound. If you are serving your wachi around the gutter, now people know hygiene, sanitation, and they know the contribution of cross-contamination towards what? Serious illnesses. These are the things that we have to look at. Risk, supply chain management. Okay? Understand the context of your organization. This aspect is also captured in the 9,000 that we did about 2-3 weeks ago. If you do that and you understand where you stand in the scheme of operation in that sector, then it will facilitate the external and the internal conditions. What are the external? The externals are the ones that you cannot control, but you manage it from within, from your internal systems. Whether they are going to ban the fuzzy drinks, you don't know. But that's an external, and that is what? Something that is linked to your risk and something that is linked to supply chain management, so that you don't stock so much sugar, because the time will come you don't even need the sugar. Glutamate, you know all that, those who are in the baking industries. People are becoming more aware of what? The allergens and the effects that they play on the human body. These are all principles that are there in the management. That is your existing management systems coming out of what? The 9,000. Okay. Now, continual improvement after taking cognizance of all this, you know what to do to improve the suitability, the adequacy, and the effectiveness of the food safety management system, because you have what it takes to minimize, reduce, or bring it down to acceptable limits, so it will be fit for your production purpose. These are some of the knowledge that you get from the 9,000. And you are applying this knowledge to improve your food safety management system. Okay, so what is the risk base? I won't go into all those details because this one, I also send it to you. But these are the framework. Your policy or your scope should be shaped by the knowledge that you have. And you apply that knowledge to do your hazard identifications, brainstorming, the literature. What is the trend? what is happening, what is going to happen. Do you need substitutes? Those of you who drink beer, in the past, the raw material for beer, you all know. Now, because those, you cannot rely on the supply of those raw materials, you have to reformulate, come out with a different recipe. An end product will still give you that word, the beer that consumers will like and cherish. Okay? Most producers are trying to come out with other substitutes. The formulation is different based on information that is acquired. Risk assessment. The health people will come in there, the environmentalists will come in there. You assess the risk, and that will help you come out with a better product. And it will help you set your objectives. What are you trying to produce? Wholesome food, sugar-free, no preservative, no color. So when you are producing your orange juice, the information that you have, you should be able to achieve or set a target that if sugar, high sugar consumption is people's problem, I'm not going to I'll get the juice that people will like. There are several ways of achieving that. You don't have to introduce a lot of preservatives. They are there, several. Those who are producing are promoting, but you should have the knowledge to take a decision based on facts, whether you buy those things, you buy those additives, the additives to add to your formulation, or you know, and you still get the product that people would like to buy. And how to control those risks. You should have the risk tools. Should be able to implement them efficiently and effectively so that you get the desired results. Try to do what is called performance evaluation. That is the verification, checking that you are doing things right. And you validate that whatever you've been able to achieve through this cycle, you plowed it into your policy development stage so that that element of Sani and Da is dead and gone. Because now you have a better way of doing things that you don't have to struggle to sell. That will make you competitive. So you see the 9,000 implementing just a very efficient food safety system based on ISO 22,000 principles. You'll be able to improve your business, grow your business, profitability and sustainability is assured. Now, so you see how the linkages are. A lot of things will come in as the input, raw material, your packaging material, utilities, machine, services, transport, and storage. You should consider all this within the spectacle of risk management. What are the potential risks associated with packaging? The utilities, your water, like energy, the machines, easy to clean or difficult to clean. Is it stainless, wood? These are all the risk factors you have to consider and go through, depending on where you find yourself, chemical products or meat or fish or whatever, dairy, vegetable, fruits. And at the end of the day, you process it and it comes to the distribution and talking about sales and consuming. Whether the consumer will accept your end product or not depends on how they perceive it. Is it wholesome or they are buying diseases? These are the things that underpins the 22,000. And then we go into another principle, continual improvement. All those principles, the details and how to understand it, the philosophy, the rationale could be found in the ISO 9001. So you see why I said you cannot downplay any of these standards. They are all very relevant. If you want to stay on top of your operations, come out as the preferred choice, irrespective of what you produce. You should consider that, and you should try to acquire knowledge from this sector. Management responsibility. How do you define and design your food safety management system? Okay, the resource management, making maximum use of the scarce resource at your disposal, meaning that you are operating on the principle of effectiveness and efficiency, cutting down waste, making sure that you reduce what? Non-conforming products. I'm talking about the product that does not meet the specification of your product, final product. So you are talking about safe product realization, wholesomeness, devoid of what? Contaminants. Measurements and analysis, doing the right laboratory checks. Here we are talking about being very proactive. Don't talk about end product testing. It's a waste. It's old school style. Plan so that what this risk management tool is incorporated into your system. That is the continual improvement of your food safety management system. So at the end of the day, whatever will come out of your activity, your production, is safe products, so that your stakeholders, customers, regulations, everything generally will be on point. That will not try to distract or try to water down the achievement or the quality and safety of your production. So you see this. This is another way you look at the ISO 22000. Okay, what do you start? You start from here, where you get all the requirements, the material, processes, product, and then you have the PRPs, that is the creating the environment, the suitable environment, the conducive environment that will engender or create, risk-free, or that will give you quality and wholesome product. And I told you that when the issues are about quality, you can simply put in place PRPs as a mechanism to address, or OPRP. But when it comes to the high risk, CCP, OPRP, PRPs, depending on the level of severity and the frequency. Okay.
Yeah.
So you put in place control measures. You validate whether that control measure is adequate, and that is the validation. Then you implement it. You verify that, oh, I'm getting, for instance, when I come to your system, your place, I want to see a food safety policy, which is trying to tell me that you want to reduce maybe the food safety risk or food safety issues or food safety complaints from maybe 5 to 2. And you know what you can do to reduce it from 5% to 2 for a specific period and a specific target product. And when you're able to achieve that, that means that your verification is giving you positive result. If not, you modify the way you do things right from the word go, the beginning. So sometimes you have to even change your raw material supplier. So you tighten the specification for selection of raw material. That is the vendor, the supplier of raw material. There should be a protocol to be able to do that. The processes, you should be able to improve it so that at the end of the day, you come out of very wholesome quality and product. And you do this, and you're looking at the consumer's way of looking at your product. Whether they are satisfied, like somebody just mentioned, that restaurant, eatery, has lost business. If you're lucky to get a consumer like that type, that woman, she will make noise and make sure the thing is. Some will not talk because of the way they are, but they will react with their feet and they will spread the news. By the time you realize the whole of Tema Township, everybody knows that we're coming out with garbage. We are poisoning consumers, so nobody will step foot in your restaurant. Let me look at the chart up here. If I have some answers, then you can continue. We will finish very soon. Yes. Somebody needs assistance. The number is there. You can address it. And then, Matilda, you are thanking me. Thank you too for paying attention to the discussion. And then somebody's talking about the principle of integrated into Nanta. You see, I sometimes I thank God that the principle of Kaizen is coming. It started long ago when some of us were students.
Fred, please unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. I'm saying somebody's asking, but is the principle of Kaizen integrated into 9,000? Okay, first, the correction is 9,001. 9,000 is the standard for vocabulary, the definition scale. So it's not any, it doesn't, prescribe any requirements. So it's like your Oxford dictionary. It is 9,000 the dictionary for management system standards. But Kaizen has a principle. And those of us who started this long ago, the basic concept was about doing things right with some level of efficiency and effectiveness so that we cut down costs. So what we're taught in the university is that cost a change without increasing cost. And these principles are indirectly factored in ISO 9001. When you adopt what we are now calling the quality culture and you study the principles of the 9,000 very well, you will see the relationship between this concept, which is a Japanese concept, and ISO, which is a global concept. When the Japanese started, those days when they were manufacturing cars, the quality was poor because they didn't know how to incorporate quality right from the beginning, right from raw material sourcing and all that, and adding value. So the process approach is what? We talk about input, value addition or transformation, and output. So if you don't have what it takes to come out with a proper value addition, it is very similar to garbage in, garbage out. Your input is so bad. You do all you need. What is the soft part is knowledge application. It won't give you anything 100% as an output. So when you read the Kaizen, and now they've modified it several times, several editions, 9,000 same, you'll be able to know the link in terms of the principles underpinning these two concepts. That's all I can say. Yes, and so this is how you look at the 9,000 as a management system, the 22,000 as a management system. And I tried to explain what a management system means yesterday. So let's move on. So what are the elements? Interactive communication within the food chain. End of story. System management, compatible with the ISO 9001, the 2015 edition. Done and dusted. HACCP principles, has encoders, done and dusted. Prerequisite programs. So these are the key elements of the ISO 22000. So now you see you've covered all the grounds. You did 9,000 earlier. Now you are looking at interactive communication food chain from farm to fork. You've done that. So you are on course. You've done so much today. I won't take you through the structure of the standard, but this is how it looks like. The font in red cuts across all management system standards. Clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7. And here, we are looking at a quality principle, quality philosophy. Okay, where you do the plan, you just do the plan, then you execute the plan, that's the do part. And here, you do the performance evaluation, that's the check, and then you act, that's how you improve. So this will illustrate what is called the PDCA cycle, cuts across all management standards. Ask your colleagues at JIMPA, and they tell you that if in your illustration or training, they did not mention PDCA cycle, then said that Mr. Jamra says they should read some of the textbook from the quality gurus. The Duran, the Ishikawas, they talk about plan, do, and check, action. That is why monitoring and evaluation is very, very important in any program or project. That's the only way you can tell whether you are doing things right or not. So in the 22,000, this concept is also enshrined. I will not take you through the various session because I'm sending you this training material. So I'll stop here. I won't go through session 4. It's all about the specific clauses. In the standard, we call them clauses and sub-clauses. And these are the auditable clauses of the standard. You audit your system against these requirements and mark you whether comply or not comply. And then to a certain level, major or minor conformity or non-conformity. And at the end of the day, they will conclude and say, your system is good enough to merit or warrant you a certificate based on ISO 9000 standard. Any questions? Please, the standard is available at the Ghana Standards Authority. I am not permitted by way of copyright to sell or give you a copy of the standard. What I use to train and prepare my notes is a complimentary copy. But if I'm doing it as, consultancy work for a company, the company will be encouraged to buy a copy from Ghana Standards Authority. Thank you very much. Questions? Charles, so now the floor is open for people who want to meet.
Yes, thank you, Fred. We are almost at the end of the session. So yes, if you can kindly stop sharing your screen. We have 4 minutes to end 12, so we will be ending soon. So we give the opportunities if you have any pressing concern, any question, you have the floor to ask before we proceed.
Hello.
Yeah, Ajiman, go ahead.
Yeah, Prof, please, I want to ask, so meaning we are getting the ISO 9001 set, yes, and then the 22,000 set.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Those who attended, registered to attend, you have the records. So I'll give you certificate of attendance. I can't give you certificate of achievement because you did not write any exit exam. That is the condition. Look, I can upgrade myself 20 times, but I always have to write exit exams. So I'll give you certificate of attendance for the 2. So if you attended only the 22, that is 22, and that's the food safety, HACCP, and you get only 1 certificate of attendance. If you did both, you get the 2 separate. So, Mr. Ajiman,
so
that is it. So if you didn't register, I'm sorry.
So is the 9,000 added to the 22,000?
Yes, 2 separate certificates.
And the HACCP is inside the.
Sorry?
The HACCP is inside the 22.
Perfect. It's inside the 22. That's
okay.
Encompass what we call the food safety system.
Okay.
Okay. The 2 sessions. Yes.
Okay. So for Linda, kindly drop the registration link in the chat box for those who have not registered. You have the opportunity to register. Those who did that yesterday, Linda shared the materials for yesterday. So Linda, look into the chat box. She's dropping the registration link. Please register. If you register, that's the only means that would have your details to share the training materials with you. So please do register. There are a few concerns here. So someone is asking whether there is an opportunity for ICA audit training by Wacom. This year, we are not doing the ICA training. We did it last year and the year before, so we are not going to do that this year. The materials are, as indicated, once you register on the link that Linda has put in the chat box, you register, we get your details, and then we share for you. So how can we write the exit exams? We are not going to do the exit exams here. So this is only information session. I think for so we will not be conducting the exit exams. Maybe you get an ICA certified organization, go and then do, or contact Fred privately. He would give you the guidelines as to what to do if you need a certificate.
Great.
I have a minute more. Victor and Lucy, I take your concerns and then we close. Please be brief. Victor, Lucy, any of, yes, Victor, go ahead.
Thank you. And then thank you to Prof. too as well for such a wonderful presentation. I've been in a company before where I started working and when it was time for us to implement the HACCP for that institution, we brought some external people to join us and then help us so that every department can put in the HACCP implementation. So I suggest that especially those institutions or those personnel that have been doing such things, if they can help us, that these small SMEs that we are coming, I'm sure most of us want to do it to help us to even put our product on the international market. So I suggest that kindly assist us, those that are interested now, so that we can implement all these things to help us put most of our product on the international market. And then, Prof, I suggest that we can organize the contact one so that we can write the exam and get the achievement certificate.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Exactly so. So, sorry, it wasn't part of the Wacom plan. That is why we do not do the face-to-face, because that one, obviously, you cannot leave my course without writing exams. And I tell you, I can give you only 2 questions, but okay. Encompass everything that you learn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whilst we wrap up, Linda would also drop our social media handles in the chat box. You do well and you follow. It helps you get most of the things we post for some of these trainings and other things that will be organized within the year. It's much more easier if you follow the social media handles of Wacom. So on Facebook, on LinkedIn, wherever it's there, I see it up there. So you would be able to have access to a lot of the things we do. I'm sure she also dropped our webpage also there. So if you follow us on our webpage, you would also get to see a lot of things that we put online. So today, as we also try to wrap up, if you wouldn't mind, I mean, it's always about seeking your consent. You can also turn on your cameras whilst Linda takes the virtual picture to post about today's event as well. If you follow, we'll follow you back. Linda is always available. We're always available to follow. So follow us and we'll follow you back. Yes, I see the camera is turning on. I see Chairman Kwaku with thy broad smile. Yes, yes. So thank you all for joining. On behalf.
Somebody said couldn't access the link throughout the day. Serious.